All right, guys, we have got our NFL Week 2 review here. We're going to go through all the games just like we did last week. We'll see what the time kind of comes out to here. Last week it was an hour and 3/4. I'm just going to talk. I know I know a lot of podcasts and videos and stuff is I'm going to try and keep this under an hour. I don't necessarily want to be like that. I kind of just want to get my thoughts out about each one, but we're going to get our thoughts out about this one. And so let's jump into it. We'll do what we did last week. Just go through the games, just go through how I saw them, all those funky little things there. Washington 18, Green Bay 27. This was the Thursday night game, first game of the week. Pretty dominant by Green Bay, front to back here. Washington really struggled to move the football. And I thought a lot of what Washington did was almost like they were scared of what Green Bay had on offense. They were not running their usual tempo. They were slower than normal. The play calling was really off, really short. And again, that's probably a Parsons thing against their offensive line, and they don't want to give Green Bay the football back when they have weapons that could go beat us in the situations we don't want. But it was almost like the whole game was, we're in, make sure we don't let them have the football, make sure we don't mess up, and let's see where we go. And that is playing scared, and it was evident from the jump that they were kind of screwed. And they even got some opportunities late in that first half, and you miss a field goal and, a couple things like that. And they had the ball at the 50 with 2 minutes to go, and they're running we'll settle for a 58-yarder offense. And it was really bizarre, really bad. It looks like Daniels got hurt somewhere along the line there, may miss this week or even further down the line, possibly. We'll see. But really horrible out of Washington's offense. The game plan was really horrible. And we've talked in the preseason about Kiffin's sophomore slumps or Daniels' sophomore slumps, and we mentioned that Kiffin has issues, that second year calling plays. And while Daniels didn't play well or anything, the play calling was really bad. And, we'll see. They lose Eckler to a torn Achilles, which is not nice, obviously. And defensively, they lose Uche for the year as well. Guy landed on him on the field goal block or the point after block. I forgot which one. But a big guy landed on his leg as he passed him. So they lose a couple of big pieces. They play really poorly. Again, Daniels might be hurt and might be missing a game this week. So a really bad day at the office for Washington. And again, the offense was truly just dumbfounding. That's probably my favorite word to use for what happened to Washington here. Dumbfounding. Just don't understand a ton of it. Defensively, another really bad showing. They still can't guard tight ends, and we've talked about Luvu being good, but the other side there, not so good. Still can't guard tight ends. Kraft went for 122 and a TD, his best game ever. And the defensive line, who loses Uche, by the way, isn't really great. And if it's not going to be great, there are going to be days where it just gets torched. This back end is not good. The middle portion's not great in coverage. And if they're not getting to the quarterback, you're going to leave players like Jordan Love back there all day to just carve apart this defense. And that is no good. So there are some issues in Washington, and Washington was one of those picks all year where it was hey, where's the regression team coming from? And, Washington got those looks, and they're going to have to fix a lot of things going forward if they don't want to become that team everybody thinks they may become for the season. Green Bay, on the other hand, another great showing. Defensively, really good. Again, the system is excellent. And we spoke about that in the offseason where we were hey, man, the coordinator they hired after, was it Barry who left? He looks like he has some life. And he had a pass rush to him finally, a pass rusher. That was the only thing it felt like they were missing, and all of a sudden this defense can't be beat. They're the best team against explosives, plays of 15-plus yards down the field, on the ground, or through the air. They've let up very few of that, and again, they've let up the least in the NFL against two teams that are good offensively, theoretically. Washington, and then we'll talk about Detroit later, who seem to be perfectly fine. So Green Bay's offense or defense off to a tremendous start. Again, Micah didn't play all the snaps, but he was a havoc machine all game long. And he's going to have a couple extra days here. Maybe he'll get to a point where he's playing all the snaps. But Micah Parsons is playing at a level that even wasn't really showing in Dallas. And that might just be spite and whatever. And he speaks about it like, man, when they don't like you, that you got to be motivated by that stuff. And he is. And it's showing very, very early. And we'll see if he's healthy enough to go ahead and play full complementary of snaps, or a full complement of snaps in their next game at Cleveland. But genuinely, he's been unbelievable. Rashawn Gary has stepped up, and because he's not just getting all the double teams anymore, it used to be like, hey, nobody's going to beat us, just double Gary, and we'll see what happens. Can't do that anymore, and it's starting to show a little bit, Gary, with the sack as well. So the defense looks really, really good, and the offense, just clicking. Well schemed. And they have got themselves a quarterback that's playing well, a quarterback that we tipped for like MVP. We bet a little bit of MVP during the offseason. We bet a little bit of Green Bay to make the playoffs. Those all look good, and it's a quarterback in a system, like even if he's not playing particularly well, the system's going to lift him up some. They were scheming very well today. They weren't letting anybody get near Love, really, and they were missing guys for snaps, Tom and all that. So like, even with guys missing on the offensive line for bits, they were just doing what they wanted to on offense. The offense is again expansive. They have a really good quarterback who should be comfortably in those top 10 conversations as we go forward. And also the running back's really great. Josh Jacobs is the top 10 guy. The receivers are all talented. They may not be great number ones, all of them, but at minimum, you're looking at like 3-4-2s, and they all work really well together. They all have different skill sets. Wicks has started off the season well as someone who's always been good at everything except catching the football. He's had a good start to the season. Reed will be missing for a little bit, but he should be back at some stage. Watson probably comes back at some stage late. And the guy's playing. Golden's solid. Dubs has been pretty good. And the scheme, again, helps a lot of these guys. So, scary team, Green Bay. And currently, if you're on Instagram or look at any of our streams or anything on Twitch, we do our power ratings every week. And they're ratings, not rankings, where it's like, hey, you lost this week, you dipped down, like your power rating genuinely week to week. And Green Bay are my current number one team in the NFC. And not sure not sure there's anybody in their realm right now the way the Eagles are playing. So we'll see. But a really, really great start for Green Bay. Game number 2, Giants and Cowboys. This was the most back and forth game of the weekend, probably the most entertaining game of the weekend. Dallas win this one 40-37 in overtime. Just a crazy, crazy football game. Neighbors gets that touchdown late. Cowboys, Aubrey is such a weapon, by the way. Like, if you're in need of points, like you need 3 points and you have 10 seconds, and a timeout, it doesn't matter because you only need 15 yards after the kickoff and you're good. Like, that's crazy to have. We'll talk about it in a sec, but Neighbors gets that TD. They get they kick the field goal to tie it, and then some awkward stuff in overtime. 5 possessions total before Aubrey kicks the game-winning field goal there. They're, just an interesting game all around. The Giants show some life offensively. Whether that holds, we'll see. it's a Cowboys defense that is really bad, and like a secondary that's already really bad, and then missing Deron Bland, and Deron Bland was noticeably gone today because they did nothing about Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot, who went for like 142. He had his best game in a really long time. And then Neighbors went for 167. He had a great game, 2 great touchdown catches, including the one that should have won them the football game. Another one, both in double coverage. That second one, he's getting his face mask moved over to the side, can't really see it, and still making the grab type stuff. Neighbors is a crazy, crazy talent and a really, really good football player. Russ turned back the years a little bit. He had his most yards in a game in a while. It was like 450 something. He was also at fault for why the Giants didn't move the football in overtime. That really bad interception, and that one where he went to pull back and let it go out for a fumble that went back like 8 yards and killed that drive. So he personally killed both drives in overtime. I'm not going to like go at him because he put up 37 points today. But the last 2 drives are on him, but he was excellent today. He's still so good at those moon balls, which made his stint with George Pickens so interesting, because Pickens loves that stuff, and that Russ is the kind of guy to get it. And like, if you can get it deep down the field for players who can win jump balls, Neighbors, Pickens, whatever, you're going to have games like this where dudes just get it and guys just go up and get it. And he had a game like that. Giants are still struggling to run the football, and I imagine that's a year-long thing, and I don't think it's a Tracy thing or a Scattaboo thing. It is a offensive line thing. But the offensive line held up a little bit in pass pro. And again, despite Parsons leaving, Dallas did upgrade a little bit in run protection on the interior by adding Kenny Clark, and that showed a little bit today. But they weren't getting there in the pass rush, which, if you're not going to get there in the pass rush, the Giants have weapons like in the pass game that can beat you. And against a really bad secondary, they did it again today. Defensively, we talked about this last week because this feels just like what it felt like last week. This defensive line is really good, and the stunts are really nice, and the pass rush is excellent, and Dexter's really great, and they were doing well against the run until they got a little bit tired toward the end of the football game. But on every snap that you can block the defensive line, nobody else can do anything. They were very thin at linebacker beforehand, missing McFadden now for the year, I think. But some other guys got hurt during the game. So, excuse me, over the middle, it's an issue. And then secondary, really bad. So, yeah, in those situations, it's just going to be a struggle for the Giants to defend. If any team can just like block them offensively in the trenches, that's kind of curtains for them. But again, they show in pretty aggressive spurts that the defensive line is playing well. Like, Burns is playing really well. Thibodeau is playing well. The rookie is playing very, very well in his snaps. Like, I'm not so sure why the snap count is the way it is with Abdul Carter, but I guess we're just living with it, and the whole coaching on that side of the football is a mess anyway. That coaching toward the end there over the last couple seconds where they're all the way back at the 50, despite the fact that Aubrey can make it from the 50 pretty comfortably, is a giant red flag for Mr. Shane Bowen, but we'll see going forward from there. Dallas, offensively, again, they're going to be fine. Sorry for the continuous cuts. They're probably going to happen throughout the video as I'm dealing with something. But the Dallas offense, going to be just fine. Dak is playing at a very, very good level. They have 2 very good wide receivers. CD is insanely elite. And the role players are doing their job. And as long as you give them time in the pocket, sometimes they are going to beat you on offense. So I have no issue with the offense. The offense is going to be very good all season long. Defense is a problem. And we spoke about it coming into the season. Even with Micah, this defense was going to be a problem. They are stopping the run a little bit better. Everything else is a bad. And Again, we talked about this secondary. It's even with like Bland in, it's bad. Diggs is kind of gone. But Diggs, I never thought Diggs was that good to begin with, but Diggs was a ball hawk and like getting the balls, like he'd go in and get some interceptions, him and Bland. But teams have figured that out, and you're more likely to get burned than not. But again, Bland didn't play today, and that interior got eaten even worse than it normally does. So if Bland's not going to come back for a while, slot guys on opposing teams are going to have pretty big days, I would assume. And this defense is going to have a really, really tough time throughout the season. If Dallas are going to win games, this is how they're going to have to win them. They're capable of doing it. Again, I think the offense is really, really good. But it's just going to be difficult on Cowboys fans who have to kind of deal with this up and down stuff every freaking week. Let's move on into the next one. It was supposed to be the game of the weekend. Philadelphia and Kansas City. Eagles win this one 20-17. This was even for the most part, which is kind of disappointing for Philly, I think. They win this game 20-17. Defense looks fine. Again, there's some questions about the pass rush, and I think, bringing in another body like they did is going to help a little bit, but it looks like the pass rush is going to take a little bit of a step back, which is a bit of an issue when you have an issue at corner number 2 and stuff like that. And there are all of a sudden weak spots. There weren't really weak spots last year. All of a sudden there are a few weak spots on the defense, and Mahomes took some advantage of that if he could. A whole lot. And again, the Chiefs offense is just predicated around Mahomes scrambling right now, but teams also let him scramble. So he was getting off plays like that. Mahomes missed the shot on that blown coverage, but there was a blown coverage in there that should have been a touchdown. Later on in the same drive, another really long touchdown. So there are some issues on the defensive side. Offensively, I'm also kind of worried here. I don't particularly love the way the play caller has been calling games. It also seems like the offensive line has taken a slight step back, which is also an issue for a team that wants to run the football as much as possible. And also for a quarterback who a lot of his stuff is short and predicated on plays not necessarily opening up. And again, even if you look at Hurts' pass chart, it's a lot of inside the 10, nothing over the middle, nothing past the sticks. A lot of it is short, intermediate, to the sides here, slants, screens, that sort of stuff. When the offensive line's not playing well and they're not running as well, you're going to get a couple more 3rd and 8s. You're going to put Hurts in these positions that I'm not saying he can't play well in spots like that. It's not what I'm saying at all. But that's just not his game. And you're all of a sudden, you've gone from a team that's going to defend really, really well and run the football to a team that's we're going to have to score a few more points. And we're also going to have to score a few more points on drives that are probably going to have a couple extra longer downs, which is just not Philadelphia. It's just not the way this team's built. So there are some concerns there. I don't think this is a bad football team or anything, but there are a few concerns there, and their next game against the Rams should be interesting to say the least. One note on the tush push, I guess. This is probably the last year. Not because I agree with it or anything like that, but they're picking it apart on TV. It's oh, look, this is a false start, a misalignment, and shouldn't be doing this, and this. And I don't have an issue with it, and I don't think the NFL should have an issue with it, and teams should just suck it up and go do it. But nobody does that, and instead, that's probably the route we're going. We're probably just not going to have tush pushes after this season, so I mean, get it in now and do what you can, but there might also may be some nitpicky stuff on tush pushes going forward, which also may be an issue. 4th and 1 becomes a 4th and 6. Changes drives, surely, especially for a team that's been pretty automatic on those tush pushes. So, just the word on that. Kansas City, defensively, we're okay today. Again, they're not really getting pass rush, and that is a huge worry. And Spagnuolo is really good at bringing pressure from unique spots and doing a variety of things like that. But again, you need standard pressure from 4 linemen sometimes, and they're just not getting it. Chris Jones is just going to have to be superhuman on all these regular rush downs, or they're just going to get torn apart, which is a bit of a worry. So we'll see going forward there. I'm sorry. And the offense, this is just what it's going to be until Worthy comes back, till Rice comes back. It's just a ton of Mahomes scrambling. Kelsey is just playing really badly, even outside of the fact that he dropped that touchdown that should have put them 17-13 up. He's just playing really poorly. There's no wide receivers that are any good here. The running game is wildly non-existent. The play calling is even dipped down a little bit for me. So there are a lot of things working against this offense, and there's a world where if they lose at New York in primetime, which is very much possible, then they get Baltimore, which they could drop. Then after that, they get something like Detroit's in there in their next 6. Like, this team is 1-5 after 6 games. I would not be stunned, considering the schedule and considering just what's happening with the roster. It's just not good. Yeah, a lot of things Kansas City needs to think about, and they need to beat the Giants next week in MetLife in primetime. Speaking of primetime, Atlanta and Minnesota played Sunday night. Atlanta wins this one 22-6. Yeah, McCarthy comes back down to earth really aggressively. As it turns out, one quarter is one quarter when you're going against the Bears secondary. So, again, McCarthy wasn't a guy I loved coming out, and I'm not writing him off or anything like that. I'm not going to be that guy after 2 games. But Atlanta have improved pretty greatly on defense, and it is significantly better than what it was last year. Significantly better what the Bears are putting out. These corners were in the right space at the right time. They were getting pressure and that's Minnesota's having injury problems up front on the defense or on the offensive line. That's going to be part of it. And when Darisaw comes back and when they're fully healthy across the front line, it'll be a little bit different. But for now, you got to work in those situations that you got to work in. And it wasn't working particularly well. Wasn't seeing the field particularly well. Some really bad throws in there. The pick late was bad. There's a lot of bad going on there, and it shows on the scoreboard where they put up 6 points. So it's going to be a work in progress going forward, and we'll see. Again, they get Addison back in 2 weeks, which is also positive. Haven't seen much of Hawkinson at all, and it's a difficult situation, and we'll see where it goes from there. And on a note, I might make a video on this on its own, probably, maybe. This idea that the Vikings should have kept Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones or whatever is just mind-blowingly stupid to me. You're paying $50 million for a quarterback that is, or $40 or $50 million a year to a quarterback in Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones that's proven that they can't win a Super Bowl with this roster. It just happened. They just won 14 games, and in the 2 biggest games of the year, Darnold was a complete melt. And it's not a shot at Darnold or anything, but Darnold probably can't win a Super Bowl. So to add $50 million to a cap on a quarterback you don't think can win anything is stupid, regardless of what the next guy does. Process should not be determined 100% by results. You could bet on, if you bet Atlanta today, or in this game, you bet Atlanta to win the game, and it's 22-6, and Atlanta fumbles both kickoffs, and it goes to overtime, and they lose 25-22 on some crazy, wild miracle. process wasn't off. Result was off, process wasn't. Like, it's important somewhere along the line that your process works and that your process is good. Like, this is good process, despite the fact that J.J. McCarthy may not work out. So I just wanted to point that out. That thought process needs to leave everybody's mind. It is dumb. It is just dumb. As for the Minnesota defense, it's still playing well. Like, they gave up a touchdown super, super late. They were on the field a ton tonight. Other than that, it was like last drive of the game. Other than that, no touchdowns, 5 field goals. Like, they moved the ball a little bit, and they do have some issues. Like, the run stuff is like a bit of an issue. Bijan had a really good day. Backup had a really good day, Algier. Like, Atlanta can run the football, and Minnesota struggle a little bit stopping the run here, but they're still very, very good defensively, still causing problems, and Penix didn't play particularly well today. They're still very good at messing with quarterbacks, and they have a quarterback next week that they'll hope they can still do that for. So again, like, the defense is in a good spot. Defense is playing well. Defense is well coached. And despite the fact that there are some issues, like most teams, it's still very, very good. Atlanta, they'll feel pretty good about this because it's a win on the road in conference. But genuinely, the offense did enough tonight. Now, there are some issues with the offense. The run game is not one of them. And again, Bijan is just so good. And you just have to get him the football in any way you can. Pitts has had a bit of a resurgence. He looks good out there. Wide receivers are okay. Mooney was back today, and that stretched the field just a little bit. It's a tougher defense they were going against today, but like having him out there is a positive, and having Drake London still out there is a positive. There are like, in terms of Penix, like, I think Penix is, I don't know, man. I'm not super in love with Penix, and again, he's very, very young, and I'm not gonna say he can't make it. I'm not that kind of guy. But like, the sample's getting slightly bigger, and his downfield stuff's not good. His over the middle stuff's not good, and is very similar to Hurts. And again, I'm not knocking Hurts, but a lot of it already is those kind of passes, screens, slants, and very little of anything else. Anything really very little over the middle of the field, really very little past the 10-yard mark, which I would say is an issue for most young quarterbacks. But normally good young quarterbacks kind of do other things and pass in other areas of the field, over the middle, deeper. And Atlanta's not short of weapons and not short on offensive line for the most part there. So I'm kind of worried a little bit, and I'm not going to take this game and like put Penix in a box, because this is a tough defense that does a really good job confusing people and stuff. But Penix is very quick off his first read, check down. And again, a lot of short stuff. And he wants to get rid of the football, but he also doesn't want to let anything develop. So it's like kind of just stuck in this weird spot for me. So we'll see what happens with Penix, but this is a good defense and a good supporting cast, and Penix is not like actively horrible so far. So like, this team can win games, and they were unlucky to not beat Tampa last week, despite Tampa's flaws and issues currently with some injuries. They should have won that game at Atlanta, and they go on the road here and beat Minnesota. This team can certainly challenge for the division, and I don't see why they won't. They've looked like they've done good with their 2 edge rushers they've bought in. They're young, but they're getting pressure, and the defense as a whole, finally, with some pressure, with some defensive linemen. It's been like 10 years, it feels like, for Atlanta, not having anybody on the defensive line. Like, just that in itself has made the defense step up in a pretty dramatic way. And Penix just has to not make mistakes going forward, and they're probably going to win a decent amount of football games in a pretty bad division. So I like where Atlanta's headed. Minnesota, again, JJ's hurt and probably going to miss a couple weeks, and you're going to get the Carson Wentz experience. And you get an interesting game next week against Cincinnati, who's also got themselves backup experience coming as well. So that is a weird game, and we'll see what happens with Carson Wentz and them. But not great for Minnesota there. Tampa Bay and Houston, the Bucs win this one 20-19. Interesting one. This started off the script stuff for both teams. Really nice. First two drives, I believe it's 14-10 or something very similar to that. Very, very quick scores. And then what we thought would happen happened. This game grinded to a complete halt. Both offensive lines were struggling to do much of anything. This Texans defensive line is really, really good. And the Bucs offensive line, not so good without Wirfs. Sorry. I was just doing a Liverpool thing. Without Wirfs. And they struggle to protect Baker. And Baker, we'll talk about in a minute, isn't playing particularly well right now. But two good defenses, two really bad offensive lines. And the game in the middle happened as we expected it. And it's 14-13 late. Was it 14-13 late? Oh, man. Yeah, something like that. But Texans scored their TD. Bucs did well. Finally, a good coaching decision in that scenario where they let the guy score. Chubb runs in. 19 they get to. Bucs have a chance. They drive all the way down the field and win the football game. Really good drive. Really well done. But finally, some good coaching in those scenarios, which is like, I'm just begging for it. Like, how often do you watch a football game and think, what on earth are they doing all the goddamn time? But finally, like a really good, like, let him score from 25 yards out. We'll get a drive in with some time. So, you get a chance to win the game on your own terms, which is always nice. Let's talk about the Texans. Defensively, great. This is going to be a really, really good defense, as long as it doesn't turn into a situation like the Jets the last couple of years where the defense has been excellent and they've just taken their foot off the gas because the offense doesn't score points and they've kind of had enough carrying the team. As for the rest of it, it's just so good. The pass rush is excellent, and they were going against a bad offensive line today, and they took complete advantage of it. They were getting pressure. They were doing everything they could. Again, they lose the game late, but they gave up 20 today. Like, can't blame them at home necessarily there. Offensively, still the same issues. Offensive line is bad. The run game is bad. Chubb, outside of that 25-yard run that the Bucs let him have, he was averaging 1.6 yards a carry. This is a bad run game and a bad offensive line, which makes everything really awkward. Stroud, I still think Stroud's a very good quarterback, but Stroud is rushed on every single play, and his decision-making has taken a hit because of it. Some bad decisions, some bad throws are in there, which, again, are 100% on him, but the situation is really, really bad offensively there, so they're going to struggle to score points against teams that can get pressure. Excuse the animals there. But, like, it's just going to be an issue offensively going forward. Defensively, really great. It's going to keep them in every game. Offensively, really problematic. So we'll see what happens there. As for the Bucs, defensively, once again, really good. It looks like the defense has taken a step, which is good. And again, they haven't played like two great offenses, and we won't know until they play some good offenses later down the line. Jets next week or with Tyrod is probably not an indication of that, but if they're playing well against bad opponents, that's at least good. And if they have taken a step, this is a genuine team to like look out for going forward. If the offense gets back to what it is, which I expect it to at some stage, offensively, it's a bit of a struggle. The offensive line is missing Wirfs and their little rotation over and stuff. Like, Barton's not a tackle. Like, he can't play tackle. And the rest of it is kind of congealed in there. It's not good, and it's letting in pressure. Atlanta was getting back there easy. Texans were getting back there every play, it felt like. So the offensive line can't wait for Wirfs to get back. Receiving group is missing a little bit of something. Igbuka, I don't want to like rain on Igbuka's parade, but he was a little bit lucky to kind of get the production he got in that first game. And a step back was always probably likely here. And he's a rookie, and that's just going to happen. Mike Evans, is going to get the best guy on the field every time until Godwin comes back. So it's, again, the injuries are taking their toll kind of early. Baker has led some good drives, but Baker's not playing very well right now. And again, I expect this to kind of lighten up as, the season goes on and they get the offensive line fixed and they get Godwin back and the whole offense is there. I expect things to kind of straighten out, but he's just not playing well, and that's all right. Leads the league in turnover-worthy plays. He has 6 of them already through 2 games. I mean, that one to Al-Shaair, how that doesn't get picked is beyond me. He's had plenty of those throws already. Again, 6 turnover-worthy plays, which leads the NFL. Him and Bo Nix, who we'll talk about in a bit. So it's he's not started particularly well, and hopefully that injury he picked up there, which was hilarious, by the way, he falls down, he immediately grabs his ankle. He must have felt a fucking Texan near him and just stood up and started talking shit. It's just funny as hell. But again, I expect this offense to kind of lift off as we go and they get pieces back. But right now, the offensive line is not good enough. They're missing some stuff deeper down the field as well. And it keeps Bucky Irving from, running the ball well. And it keeps a lot of things back. So Wirf's coming back is probably just a big tick up for the offense on its own. And Godwin and McMillan, we're looking at a lot sticking out right now. So they've been pretty lucky to win either of these football games, and you come out 2-0. That's pretty good. Next, the second Monday night game, Chargers-Raiders. I'm not going to talk about this one too much. This was a very slow game. I didn't think either offense played particularly well. Hampton, offensively, for the Chargers, Hampton kind of struggled a little bit. The run game struggled a little bit. And it's a decent Las Vegas defensive line. And we've talked about their offensive line issues and what that would look like today. They scored 20 points, 7 of which came on a broken coverage. Really great throw, though, but a broken coverage. So the offense wasn't super potent today. And again, the run game kind of iffy. And we'll see with Hampton, who's not started brilliantly, but Najee Harris and him can, kind of get things working and get the rotation correctly, and this should be fine. The wide receiver group is pretty good and should be good going forward. And again, when you're playing the Raiders, who have probably the worst secondary in the league, or not the worst, Miami's there, but it's a bad secondary, and you give them a little bit of time, and these wide receivers should get open. Johnston, again, we talked about Johnston last week. If he can catch, he's going to be a good wide receiver, but he has the tools. Long TD again. So the offense was fine. Nothing spectacular today. Defensively, good. Didn't have to do a ton. They were getting pressure, and Geno did the rest. I didn't watch the game and think, man, this secondary is really good, or man, this linebacker group is really good, or man, I thought the defensive line was okay considering they don't have Khalil Mack, but a lot of that was Geno being Geno, and we can talk about the Raiders offense. I've talked about Geno before. I just don't see it. But today it all kind of aired out. He was making bad decisions on the plus side of the field, which is something he does quite a bit. That first pick was a bad look. The offensive line's not good, so Gentry's not getting the opportunities to get chunks like he should, because he's when you watch the games, he looks all right considering he can break a tackle here and there, and he does well to kind of get what he's getting. The offensive line gives him nothing. And the usage is kind of weird, by the way. They had a 3rd and 2 from midfield, and they brought Zamir White in and ran the football up the middle. And then the 2-minute drill had Dylan Lobb there. Usage is kind of weird. But we also talked about his usage from college, and maybe they're just protecting against that in a season where they're probably not going to win a ton of games. We'll see. But the offense has issues. Thornton's okay. He looks like he'll be all right. Bowers and Mayer are like the guys who need to get the football here, and it just feels like they're trying their best to spread it around for whatever reason, instead of just getting it to Bowers, instead of just getting it to Michael Mayer, instead of just getting the football to Genti. But it is what it is. Defensively, again, I think this defense played okay today. Outside of that one where the corner passed him off and nobody went with him, and it was a great throw, and the safety got beat on the end there. But like, other than that, I thought they played well. Forced a lot of punts, gave up 20 points. The pass rush is decent. So this is probably as good as it's going to get for the Raiders defense game to game. They've given up 33 points in 2 weeks. They should feel pretty good about that. And the defensive line, again, is the strong part, and they have talent there and can get to the quarterback. But also, if they're going to face a good offensive line at some stage, which the Chargers are okay on the offensive line, that miss at right tackle, or the tackle that got hurt, is gigantic, and it kind of shows, and you kind of just bring one guy in and it goes from elite to like kind of okay, above average. So they haven't played any great offensive lines, and when they do play great offensive lines, probably going to get torched in the back end, but we'll see. But let's jump into the next one. Carolina and Arizona. Cardinals win this one 27-22. This was really comfortable for a really long time, and then all of a sudden Carolina had the ball with a chance to win the football game. Don't quite get over the line, and Arizona will be feeling all right that they don't get over the line there, but again, they just took their foot off the gas, it felt like, and Carolina got back into it late, scoring 2 touchdowns in a row in the last couple of drives there. Weird game, but Arizona will probably feel all right if you kind of just turn the tape off of that last 6-7 minutes. But they scored points on offense for the most part. They were okay. I don't think this offense is going to be great, and I think that's more of a Kyler thing. Like, they can run the ball okay. Offensive line's probably not great, but like, it's fine. The wide receiver group is not great. It's fine. The Marvin Harrison stuff, it's just a continuation of last year. He'll probably be fine in the NFL, but is he ever going to make that leap to like the Neighbors level or any of those other guys that came out? I don't know. He just doesn't separate like an elite wide receiver, which is a worry, but again, they kind of force him the football sometimes, and he can still make those downfield catches. He made a downfield one today. Like, he can still do those things, and I'm not doubting him as a wide receiver. I'm kind of doubting that he gets into like the top 10 range. But it's just kind of an okay offense, and that's kind of where it is. Defensively, again, there are some nice things. Like, again, Will Johnson has started well. The pass rush is better. And again, barring those last 2 drives where the game seemed to just like what the hell is happening, and everybody who was watching and everybody in the stadium was like, what is actually happening? Barring those 2, defense played well, got to the quarterback, forced turnovers. So I don't have a doubt that the defense is going to be above average, or at least solid for throughout the year. Whether the offense can score enough points to kind of make that matter in the long run, I'm not so sure. But you start off 2-0. Schedule does not get easier from here, though. So needed to win these 2 football games if you're going to have one of those seasons where you go ahead and have a push. Carolina, on the other hand, the defense is a mess. Again, we've talked about this roster as a whole. This is probably the worst roster in the league, just top to bottom. Defensively, they don't get really any push. And it's just not good. And Arizona early kind of did what they wanted. Offensively, showed some signs of life in a dead game, unfortunately. And the first half was bad. There was some bad turnovers in there by Bryce Young. I talked about this in the offseason, that I didn't particularly believe that the Bryce Young resurgence thing was real. I'm pretty comfortable saying that it's not, and that at the end of the year, they're probably looking for a replacement. He just doesn't have it, and that, it happens. They lose a couple guys on the offensive line. The offensive line was already not that good. They lose 2 starters for the year. Like, this is falling apart already. Tet McMillan is like the lone good player on tape, man. When every time you watch one of these games, it's just Tet, and he looks like he's going to be a bona fide, genuine top 15 guy. Really love the way he plays, and I'm excited for what his future looks like. But that's kind of it on this offense, and we'll see. But didn't love what I saw from Carolina today. Rams and Titans. Rams win this one 33-19. This is an interesting team, this Titans team, because there are a lot of holes. Offensive line is a bit of an issue. Wide receiver is a bit of an issue. Rookie quarterback. Defense is playing above itself, I think, because Jeffrey Simmons is just a monster, and the defensive line is getting some pressure here and there, and the corners are playing above their station right now, and they can continue to play at that rate. But it makes games really tight. This game was really tight until the fourth quarter, when the Rams offense we've had enough of this, and scored like 20 straight points on offense. Like, they were just like, I've had enough of this, and let's go win this football game and put it to bed, and they did. But they kind of stick in games. That's 2 games now where, halftime they're ahead? They were 13-10 ahead today. They were at 10-6, I think, in the Broncos game, but they just keep it tight, and the defense is good. Like, if the defense has to play a whole game, like, if the offense can get a couple of extended drives out there, the defense can probably put this together for an entire game, and you have a chance of winning football games. Offensively, again, there's problems. Like, the offensive line's not great. The wide receiver group's not great. Running backs, average, I suppose. And Cam Ward is going to be a really, really interesting player. I don't know what to make of Cam Ward personally yet. I've seen a lot of Cam Ward, and it felt a lot like Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M, where it's like he was doing that running around thing, and then you'd throw it up, and Mike Evans would grab it, and you're like, that's cool. I love watching it, and it's great, and it's fucking awesome. But also, this is probably just a really bad decision to make at the NFL level. And he had one of those plays where they scored on the touchdown where he's just scrambling around, gets over to the sideline, and goes across his body to that corner of the end zone. And it's a touchdown, and you're like, man, that's awesome. Genuinely fucking awesome. I mean, that's such a great throw, all that funky stuff. And then when you're rewatching it, and in the back of your head, you're like, man, how often does this get done and not end in a pick? Like, how often does that happen, really? And he has a lot of those plays, which is so interesting. But he makes a lot rolling out. He's fine in rhythm, in system. Like, that's fine. Again, the offensive line's not great, so the plays don't get a ton of time to develop and stuff. And he can create on the move, which is really good. And he's mostly accurate right now. But just some of those plays, that's not a good play. Despite the fact that it worked, it's just not a good play. Puts the ball in danger type stuff. And he's still taking a lot of bad sacks doing that stuff. And I don't want to rain on Cam Ward, because I don't think he's playing particularly poorly. I just don't think it's like you see the highlights and you're like, everyone's like, wow, he's ready. Type started this is it. He's him. And I kind of just want to pump those brakes just for a second. Again, this is his second game, and I don't want it sounding like I don't like Cam Ward or I think he's going to be a bad football player. But a lot of it reminds me of just what Caleb Williams was doing at USC, except he's doing it at the NFL level, if you know what I mean. A lot of that scrambling stuff, a lot of off-script type of stuff that looks really great, and every once in a while it works, and you're like, holy moly. And then all the little bad habits in there are the things that are going to make or break his career. The bad sacks, if any of those plays just become turnovers, that type of stuff. So intently watching, because it's genuinely so interesting on tape, just genuinely very interesting on tape, and I'm interested to see how his year goes just as a whole. Rams. Defensively, I think the defense is good. Again, a freak play where they give up that touchdown. They give up 19 on the day, lots of field goals, 4 of them to be precise. Bend don't break is good for the most part. Offensively, again, it's a little bit tougher with an older quarterback when there's pressure. And the first half showed a little bit of that. Second half was very much dominant on offense. Like, they were scoring points. We're scoring points on this drive. We're scoring points on this drive. We're putting this game to bed. Stafford has started the year really, really well. Puka Nacua is really, really great. Blake Corum has come on quite a bit because Kyron has not started particularly great, but Corum has picked up a little bit of slack in there as well, which is nice. And Devontae Adams is still Devontae Adams. So the offense is good. And if they keep Stafford protected all year long, they're going to be good all year long. There is talent all over the place. So I like this Rams team. That game next week at Philly will be really, really fun to watch. Cleveland, Baltimore. Baltimore win this one 41-17. This is one I'm not going to talk about as much because of the score, but because I know who Baltimore are. But I don't want to talk about Baltimore necessarily. I want to talk about the Browns' defense. It is genuine. Like, there is an issue. One of the corner spots, and things like that. There are small holes, but the pass rush is real. They're getting to the quarterback. They're stopping the run well. They're covering well. And they're an injury or two in the secondary away from being one of those teams that if you can block our D-line, you're going to torch us type. But right now, with the corners being mostly healthy, again, they were missing a guy or two toward the end of the game, and that's when Baltimore really piled it on. But fully healthy, this is a really good defense, a genuine top 5 type defense. Again, Myles Garrett is Myles Garrett. Mason Graham looks like he is going to be a hit. He was all over the place, just causing havoc. Just the run game was like non-existent for Baltimore in the first half because he was just back there. So he looks like he is going to be a heck of a pick at D tackle. But the defense genuinely is really great. They held Baltimore to 10 in the first half. And again, it's important to say this, when whole units like the defense are on the field for long stretches at a time and the other unit is not giving them rest, it does show. So the score says 41 for Baltimore, but again, they had 10 at half, and as the game kind of went on and an injury or two in the secondary, it kind of fell apart, which again, it's going to happen. But that first half was so good. They gave up 10, and the 7 came on a 24-yard drive after a blocked punt. So the defense is really good here. The offense, bit of an issue. Flacco not playing well. Offensive line's not very good. The wide receiver group is not really that good. They scored 7 points on that Tillman touchdown. We had 4 Tillman touchdowns as a future that we bet on. And if we get to exactly 4, we'll look back on this one because this is a certain pick that just goes through a Baltimore player's hands right into Tillman's circus type stuff. And that is something that happens to Baltimore a lot, it feels like. That game, that made it 20-10, and you kind of felt like, oh, come on, really? This again, but the offense is a problem. Flacco's not mobile, and they're not really protecting him particularly well, not running the ball particularly well. Judkins should be the one this week or soon or whenever, and he should be getting the work, and we'll see what that looks like in a pretty big sample. This was his first game. So we'll see with Cleveland going forward, but I think the defense is going to keep them in football games going forward. We talked about this team, and we particularly said at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the season, that this is a team that is probably not going to win many games, but they're probably going to be kind of competitive. It's shown so far. And they have winnable games now coming forward. Pittsburgh are not playing over the moon great to start. They have a Minnesota team that's going to be playing Carson Wentz. They go to Detroit, or they play the Packers, and then go to Detroit, and those are toughies. But they can win a couple games here, so we'll see what happens going forward there. Baltimore started this game, and again, the defense was playing really well, but I also think they're right now they're being a little bit protective of Lamar. 0 rushes in the first half from Lamar. He had 2 in the second half, 1 in the red zone there where he was trying to get there, and then 1 where he was behind the line a long time and then just kind of went for a run. I think they're, unless they really need to, I think they're keeping those plays alone or in the playbook. So 1, they can have them later, and 2, Lamar doesn't take as many hits as they probably assume they have a really good football team, because they should. I think they're the best team in the league. So I think they're doing a little bit of that. Henry was stuffed a bunch. The wide receivers came to play a little bit here in this one, showed off a bit. So talent there. Defensively, played really well, got to the quarterback. Had that dropped pick that fell in for a touchdown. So defensively, they played really, really well. So Baltimore should feel all right. Jacksonville and Cincinnati. This is an interesting one here. Cincinnati win this one 31-27. Really funky game. Let's talk about, Cincinnati ended this game on a 5-minute drive that went 90 yards with Jake Browning and won the football game here. All that DPI on Travis Hunter was not really a DPI, but it gets called and that extends it and they get over the line. But I thought Jacksonville played all right today. I know that's weird to say. I thought Trevor played all right. He had that 1 throw in the end zone that was bad. But everything else was mostly okay. That second pick wasn't on him. 100% on Brian Thomas, who's a lot of the negative things that happened to Jacksonville today were on Brian Thomas. I don't know what his deal was. I don't know if I guess he's just scared to get hit or whatever it is, but he was ducking regular stuff. Like that one over the middle, he's going to get hit. And that, I get it. And I don't get it in the heat of the game. You should be going and getting that. But he's going to get hit, and I get that. The 4th and 5, ducked under. The one in the end zone, ducked under. He wasn't even going to get hit on these, and he's ducking and stuff like that. I don't know. That's got to be fixed, and Cohen was kind of hinting at it after the game. He's I got to watch it and stuff. But I imagine he knew that Brian Thomas was ducking that stuff, and he cannot be doing that. He's the guy on this team. He's got to go get those, and a lot of what happened, that 4th and 5 on him, that second interception on him in a game they lost by 4. So that's got to be dealt with. That 4th down, by the way, I did not dislike the decision. Obviously, they lost the football game by 4. You kick the field goal there, you're probably just losing the football game by 1. So 3-6 is not a world where I have it 2-4, whatever. 3-6 doesn't change much. You just need goes from field goal, ties the game, the touchdown loses the football game in both scenarios. So I have no issue with that. But I thought Trevor played mostly all right today. Again, that first interception was on him, that one in the end zone. Second one not on him. He had a lot of good passes that were just kind of ignored by Brian Thomas for whatever reason. They were moving the football. The offense is good. Again, this Cincinnati defense is nothing to really write home about, but the pressure is getting better for Cincinnati, and they have a semblance of life on the defensive line, and they were moving the ball. The offensive line's been a top 5 unit over the first couple of weeks. They're opening holes in the run game. Etienne's running well. Tootin was a weapon today. Really interesting player. Really gadget-like player, and should get a decent amount of touches, and probably going to get a couple of spots in the playbook just for him. Really interesting player. Travis Hunter was okay. Again, Brian Thomas was the issue today. If Brian Thomas just goes up and catches those 2 passes we're talking about a Jacksonville team that probably wins this by 10, and they go on the road and win comfy. And then, the whole thought process around Trevor Lawrence and the team itself is probably just different in the public media. But the offense looks good. We'll see what it looks like against a better defensive line. They've played the Cincinnati defense, which isn't very good. And then they played Carolina, who's not very good at all. And they're going to play Houston next week, which is a gigantic jump up in competition on the defensive line and on defensively as a whole. So they're going to get a little bit of a knock in the face, I think, just right off the bat. But I'm interested to see how it goes against a very, very good defense and a very, very good defensive line. Defensively, it's not great. Again, they probably don't lose the game here if the offense is fine, but you still kind of gave up 31 despite the fact that you got 3 turnovers, which is a problem, which means they're moving the ball pretty comfortably with a backup. The backup's moving it fine. Again, backups make mistakes, and he turned the ball over 3 times. But you get 3 takeaways and still give up 31 points means they're moving the football, which is a big problem. And I don't expect this Jacksonville defense to be great, but it's going to have to be a little bit better. Cincinnati, defensively, not great. Again, you get the 2 turnovers. The turnover, the second one's not really on you, but you get it. Again, the defensive line is showing a little bit more than I thought it would, but the rest of it, it's just not good. And if you're going to have a backup quarterback that's going to make mistakes going forward, you're going to have to play a little bit better to win some of these games and kind of keep yourself in it. As for the offense, you lose Joe Burrow for what looks like 3 months. It sucks. It's just what it is. And, I'm not going to talk too much about it in this video because this video is more about the games and the future here. So what it looks like going forward, he may be back at the end of the year depending on where this team is. And if it needs a couple of wins at the end of the year, it's still in the hunt. But winning this football game kind of kept that alive. So we'll see. But yeah, not good for Joe Burrow, who seems to be injury prone at this point. As for Browning and the offense, it works still. The system's all right, and Browning can make enough throws to open guys. Browning can't do much of the other stuff. When he gets pressured, he seems to make a variety of bad decisions. But when it's open, he's going to hit that throw, regardless of where it is on the level. So it should be interesting. He plays a really interesting defense next week in Minnesota. A defense he's played before and played well against, but or a coordinator he's played well against before, but he's got the weapons. Does not have the offensive line, does not have the running game, which that's a huge problem. But he's got the wide receivers, and if they can get open, he'll find them. So there's hope that they can win a couple of games here and kind of keep their season alive while Joe Burrow heals up. So very good win, very important win for Cincinnati. Jacksonville, we'll see what they really look like against a really good defense next week. Bills-Jets. Bills win this one 30-10. We don't have to dig through this too much. Bills are getting their points. Doesn't matter how, when. They were pretty methodically moving the football up and down the field pretty much at will in that first half. It's always going to be tough to stop, but when your offense doesn't score any points and it's not moving the ball, even if you get stops, it doesn't matter. Again, I think the defensive line's okay, and I think there are spots on this Jets team that are okay, but Josh Allen is Josh Allen, and you can't continue to give him drives. You just can't. And the Jets were going nowhere on offense. The drives were 3 plays most of the time. 3 plays, give the ball back, Josh Allen, another chance. You can go 3 and out. Josh Allen went 3 and out. Doesn't matter. You went 3 and out and gave it right back. And the more chances you give, it's just going to happen. And you could play well defensively and give up 30. And that's kind of just how it goes. So Bills offense, comfy. There's not much we can say about this game. Bills defense, stop the run better. And that was the worry coming in. They're not really great stopping the run, and Ed Oliver wasn't playing, and that's a worry for the Bills. And you got Justin Fields, who played really well last week, but the offensive line wasn't as good today. Couldn't quite get the running backs into space, a lot of negative runs. And that can't happen in this offense. You get to a point where like you're getting 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 10 with Justin Fields as your quarterback, and you get the game you got today, which is a whole lot of Justin Fields missing guys and having one completed pass after like 2 quarters or whatever it was. So like it's a problem, and the Jets offense has to be in rhythm, and it has to move the football on the ground. Otherwise, these are going to be the results every time. Fields looks like he's hurt, and it looks like Tyrod's going to start next week. I actually think Tyrod's like a better system fit for what this guy wants to run. So we'll see what that kind of looks like next week against the Bucs. But yeah, if they're not running the football well, this is just kind of, these are the games they're going to have. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they're not running the football well, they're not going to score points, and it's very heavily dependent on that. So, we'll see. We got the real Fields today, and that's just it. Simple as that. Chicago and Detroit. Detroit win this one 52-21. Yeah, so it looks like the Lions are fine offensively, and it was just the freaking Bears, maybe, or it was just the Packers, maybe. Genuinely, though, when you're not getting pressure up the middle here against this Detroit team like Green Bay got, if you're not getting pressure and you have nobody on the interior, the pass rush is not good. It's not been good. Even after they signed the fella for $25 million a year or whatever it was, like, even after that, it doesn't look like the pass rush has stepped up. It looks like the pass rush is still a problem. If you can't get pass rush on this Detroit offensive line, which showed in week 1 that it's got some issues on the interior, there's still talent here. And we talked last week and we said Detroit felt more like an offensive line problem than a play caller problem. The play calling was fine today, and they were going up and down the field pretty much at will. They were getting big chunk plays. They were getting small plays. They were getting chunk plays with the run. They were getting chunk plays with the pass. They were doing whatever they wanted. And a lot of that has to come down to Chicago, who are missing their best 2 corners, one for the season now, and Jalen Johnson. That is a gigantic problem. And I'm not sure what this defense is going to look like going forward. It's going to probably not be good. Again, you're missing your best, like an elite corner, and you're not getting any pressure. Like, that's just a recipe to get torched all the time. And when you're playing an offense that's filled with talent, filled with talent, like Detroit's is, these are the results. And they kept piling it on there. Offensively for Chicago, very much a lot of what happened last week. You come out of the gates, the script is great. They go right up down the field and grab themselves an early TD, and then it's not great after that. They score 21, and it's fine, and there are some issues with Detroit defensively, which we'll talk about, but like, it's going to be the same issues. I like what Odunze's becoming. It looks like Odunze's breaking out quite a bit, which is nice. Did well on that first touchdown. He looks like he's turning into the receiver we all thought he could be, which is nice. Caleb is still very much doing a lot of the things he normally does. He's just not that accurate. And a lot today was in the pocket, and that's a problem. So we'll see going forward. Again, hopefully he just gets it going. Hopefully that's just what happens, and Ben Johnson kind of gets him in there and fixes that. And if not, then you're gonna have some funky scores, I think, for the Bears going forward. As for the defense on Detroit, it's kind of a worry. The secondary is playing okay. The linebacker group has taken a slight step back, and the defensive line is getting very, very little pressure. It just is. And I know Hutch is there, but you can double Hutch and nobody else can really beat you until some of these guys come back. McNeil, Rodriguez, all that stuff. So, like, it's a worry. It'll be a genuine worry. And they're going to Baltimore next week. That is going to be a real test of this Detroit defense next week. So we'll see what that looks like. As for the offense, we spoke last week and thought it was an O-line problem, and the O-line played well today. against the not-so-good D-line and put up a ton of points. So I don't think it's a play-calling problem. I think it is an offensive line thing. The three guys on the interior, if they're not getting shoved around, they're going to be fine offensively. If they are getting shoved around by good D tackles, probably not going to be fine. So we'll see. They play some good D tackles next week. Again, with Baltimore there, Matt Boyke is a good D tackle. So we're going to see what that looks like on the interior there. Should be a really interesting one. But yeah, things to work on for Chicago, and Detroit have things to work on, but putting up 52 at home against a division rival feels pretty good. Seattle and Pitt. Seattle win this one 31-17. I know this game was tight for a pretty long while, but this was a pretty deserved win from Seattle when you go back and actually watch it play to play. The offense was moving it fine. They had some funky things that stopped some drives, but there was one bad throw from Darnold. Other than that, he played pretty well again. He started the year pretty well. The running game is okay. Kenneth Walker ran pretty well. Jackson Smith and Jigba is on his breakout, so he's playing particularly well and had a really great catch over the end there, or over the top there. So the offense is playing pretty well. Nothing crazy, but playing pretty well. They played significantly better than Pittsburgh today. I thought they had 5 more plays than Pittsburgh today and 130 more yards. Like, they were really moving the football. What that means for Pittsburgh defensively, I don't know. I'm kind of worried that the defense is going to have some issues here. Again, the run game wasn't spectacular, but it's like the secondary here is not good outside of Jalen Ramsey, and you're going to have to stop the run like comfortably. You're going to have to get pressure on the quarterback comfortably. And the pressure thing is not necessarily an issue, but the run stopping thing right now is kind of an issue. And again, the secondary is not good here. Jalen Ramsey has come over, and he looks like a genuine Pittsburgh Steeler, man. He is hitting people and just playing really well. He fits in. Everybody else is not playing well in that secondary. So that's going to have to change, and the run stuff is going to have to change for Pittsburgh to kind of get back to that, where they want to be defensively, which is like top 5. So I'm kind of worried about Pittsburgh's defense not being in that top 5-ish area and just being a regular top 15-ish defense. Offensively, it was fine. Nothing spectacular out of Pittsburgh. Obviously, they only put up 17. DK played all right today. I didn't like they weren't using him like they did last week. I thought like a lot of that shorter stuff and letting him run stuff. Maybe it was covered and that works that way. He had a lot of contested stuff which he got up and got. He started the year pretty well. Don't love the rest of the weapons. We've talked about that. Warren has started pretty well in his role. I just like his role. I like him sticking in that role. Just, pass catching back and a couple rushes here and there. That's where I like him. And he had a big run in after the catch today or whatever there that brought him inside the 5. He played well again. Rodgers is same as last week. I thought the difficult stuff is not necessarily in his realm anymore. He can make a lot of good passes and stuff, but like constantly going outside the numbers and constantly going down the field is probably not something he's going to be good at this year. He had that really great throw on the incompletion. That was probably his best throw of the day, or the best throw of the day. And then he had the worst throw of the day where he threw that over the middle and the Seahawk guy, it hit him like in the hands here. And there was nobody else in the area. That was probably the worst throw of the day, though he dropped it, and both were incompletions, though it should have probably just been a 50-yard catch and a horrible interception or a pick 6. But like, Rodgers is fine. He's probably just not going to be above that, and that's just kind of where we are. Seattle defensively continue to play well. The defensive line is solid. If they can continue to get pressure and stop the run, they're going to be very difficult to beat. The secondary is not like playing super, super well, like up to their like potential, but they're talented and, play to play, it may be funky, but they'll step up in big plays and big situations. Obviously, at that special teams gaff there. That may have changed the way the game was going and stuff like that. But in terms of just down to down and how the game was working on both sides of the football, pretty comfortably deserved from Seattle. So I don't want to talk about that particular play there, though it was not good from that fella there. So not great from Pitt. It's a good road win for Seattle, who will feel unlucky to not be 2-0 right now, but a good start for them. All right, Denver and Indianapolis. Colts win this one 29-28. Yeah, really interesting game this. I'm going to say this before I walk into it. Denver made a shit ton of mistakes toward the end there. The Bo Nix pick wasn't nice. Miss a field goal, a short one, 42 yards. Obviously, the penalty at the end, which helped the Colts get another go and win the game there. A lot of mistakes out of Denver. The Colts definitely deserve to win this game, just the way things happened. Colts are missing guys in the secondary, and Denver moved the ball pretty well. Couldn't move it at all in the second half there. Outside of that late drive, I think they had 28 really early in the third quarter and didn't necessarily score again from there. So, there are some issues there. We'll talk about that in a sec, but Indianapolis put up 475 yards of offense today. They got stopped for field goals a lot. They punted once, or they didn't punt at all. They haven't punted at all, though they did have a turnover on downs in the middle there. But nothing crazy. The offense was comfy. They made the Denver secondary look really ordinary. So yeah, and I thought Indianapolis deserved to win the football game, though Denver will be upset that they didn't win the football game there at the end. So, that's just how she goes. The Colts on offense, again, they ran the ball really well. Obviously, Taylor goes for 200. They ran the ball really well. The passing game was good. They were doing well with the pressure up front. The offensive line played well. The receivers played well. Everybody played well on offense. Again, when you have 475 yards of offense, most of the time everybody plays well, and they played well today against what should be a really good defense. We will say this about defense. So we said it all off season. Defense year to year is really, really difficult to keep good just year on year. It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to be a top 5 defense for 2-3 years in a row. And Denver were really good last year, and they're really talented. But also, they got their ass beat today. And Surtain looked really, really normal today. So, those things happen just year to year. Defense is really not sticky like offense. Offense, you can project and be pretty comfortable with. Defense, a little bit more different. And again, Denver didn't play particularly well today defensively, and the Colts' offensive resurgence continues. Now, they're playing well. The scheme is really nice. I don't want to sound rude, but I need to see a little bit more. They're going to go on the road and play the Titans next week. We'll see what that first half in particular looks like. But also, the Saints did this last year, and sometimes, as we said, offense is a little easier to project. And my guess is that the Colts offense is not the Buffalo Bills offense or the Baltimore Ravens offense, is just my guess. But if it is, it'll look pretty good over the next couple weeks. So I'm interested to see where it goes. Jones is not making mistakes, or too many mistakes at least. The run game is really good. The offensive line is really good. There's no reason, if it's real, that it just doesn't continue moving in the right direction there. So again, a really great start for the Colts offensively. Defensively was always going to be tough today. They don't get a ton of pressure on the defensive line, and the back end was missing guys. It was always going to be really tough today. No Ward, no I forgot the other corner's name. They were missing guys back there, and it was always going to be difficult today, but they did all right, particularly in the second half. They played well, forced a turnover in there, and did well to keep things in front of them for the most part. So impressive enough considering the flaws on that defense. and the situation they were in. So a good win for the Colts. As for the Denver offense, it was, again, fine. It had some advantages today and didn't, I don't want to say it didn't like perform, because they got over their win, they got over their total and did all right, but second half wasn't very good. Bo Nix has still not played particularly well. He was fine today. That pick wasn't good, and obviously there are extenuating circumstances on it, but still in that situation, a turnover at all is a problem. He had a really great throw down the sideline there, just a really fantastic one, but the offense just wasn't doing enough, obviously. You score 28 and you feel pretty good about it, but also when you score 7 in the second half of a game that's really going up and down against a team that doesn't have a secondary, that's also a problem. So some good, some bad to come out here. Run game's not great. Hopefully that can step up somewhere along the line, and the weapons aren't fantastic, but you would like a little bit more in that second half. Defensively, not their best day. They weren't really getting pressure. They weren't causing pass breakups in the secondary or anything. And again, they did well enough to stand on their heads a couple of times and force some field goals, but in the end, too much. And that's just kind of how she goes. I will say about the Colts, before we move on to the next game, that play calling shit at the end of the game that resulted in them settling for a 60-yard field goal, what the fuck is that? I hope that whole drive gets scrapped and everybody wipes their memory of that nonsense, because that should have lost them the football game, that whatever that crap was. So really horrible there, but everything else was really great. So interesting one there. We got 2 more games. Patriots and Dolphins. Patriots win this one 33-27. This is an interesting one. I thought May played really well today. Again, I don't love what's happening defensively for Miami, and this secondary is truly horrible. But May got out of some nice spots, had some really nice throws in there, and the offense overall was clicking. Kayshon Boutte, it's Boutte, right? Kayshon Boutte, another touchdown, continues to play well. Diggs was a little bit more involved, I believe tied for the most targets today, and they're kind of spreading the football around there. Not a ton of Travion Henderson today, but Stevenson played really well. So as long as one of the running backs is going well, that's all you kind of need. Gibson got some touches as well. So the offense was clicking against a really bad defense and a really bad secondary, which it should. As for the defense, desperately needs Christian Gonzalez back. He should be back this week. He's practicing, I think, today and yesterday. So he should be back this week, and hopefully he looks good and comes in and starts playing well, because the defense has not been good. Again, 27 against today, 20, a lot of bigger plays against the Raiders there. So, hasn't started particularly well. The defensive line is not fantastic, and, there's just not a ton of fantastic outside of Christian Gonzalez on the defense there, so they really desperately need him back. Offensively for Miami, I thought they ran the ball well today. I thought the scheming was really nice, and the play calling cadences were really good for the most part out of Mike McDaniel. Tua was okay. He had another one of those picks where he's just rolling out and throwing it directly to the linebacker. I don't want to speculate on that, but it needs to not happen anymore. That's like the third one this year already. So that's a real problem. They got Tyreek more involved today, got himself a 30-yard catch, because that was everyone's goal for the week, apparently. Waddle is still very good. Again, Achane had a really great game, and he's a really good player. And when you get him the ball in space, he's difficult to stop. So, again, I thought the offense was good. Defense, it's just playing handicapped, man. The defensive line's not great, and if they're not going to get any pressure, this is the worst secondary in the league by margin. It's the worst secondary in the last 5 years in the NFL. It's really, really bad, and it's not going to be able to defend anybody. So it's just kind of what the defense is going to be. And they have a short turnaround as they go up to Buffalo on Thursday, so that'll be an interesting one there. Last one, San Francisco and New Orleans. Niners win this one 26-21. yeah, Mac Jones leads them to a win, and Mac Jones is fine. Steps into the system and is good. No Kittle. Tonjes plays well as a replacement, and the other guy was solid, but Tonjes got more snaps and more targets. And again, Mac Jones is a system guy, and he'll throw it to the open guy, and he'll make his mistakes here and there, and he did. But for the most part, he's going to hit the open guy, and we're just going to go down the field. So he should be okay. Should win them a couple games here. And we'll see. McCaffrey looks fine. The offensive line was okay. Again, Pearsall's playing really well. I really like him. And, the pass catchers are doing enough. Jennings caught that TD and went. He looked slow there. And I know he's back off injury or dealing with something there, but that kind of popped off on tape that he was just very slow there, despite the fact that he went like 40 yards for a TD. It was very weird. But again, they did enough offensively. 26 points on offense is pretty decent on the road here with a backup quarterback that hasn't played on the team before. So again, solid showing from the Niners. Offensively, defensively was okay. The defensive line's not great, and that'll be a problem going forward, again, especially when you have a rookie in the secondary and, stuff like that. This defense is probably just going to be average. Mykel Williams had some flashes today, which is good. They need him to be like a genuine good rusher by the end of the year if this team is going to win a Super Bowl, which is still their goal. Obviously, Purdy's only out a couple weeks, and they hope when he gets back and when Kittle gets back that this is a Super Bowl team. And they've started the year 2-0, and they'll have 2 road games under their belt, so it's a good start. But again, the defensive line has to be better, and if Mykel Williams is going to make a step or, hit the ground and do what he can and just continue to grow as the year goes on, that's huge. And again, he played much better this week than he did last week, so that's very, very good. As for the Saints, defensively, I thought they were okay. Caused a couple problems. Defensive line is pretty solid. And there are some pieces in there. There are also plenty of holes on the defense, and they found them in the secondary and stuff like that. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle if they're not getting a ton of pressure, as for a lot of football teams. But when you have a bad secondary, that's just kind of it. Offensively, I thought Rattler played well. Really, he played well. Decent enough. I think Rattler has a future in the NFL, as a backup. I don't know if he's ever going to be like a starter, but if he can grow for the year and set aside himself a career, that'd be great. For him, of course. And again, I thought he was decent today, a miss or two here, but he was finding his guys. He was finding Olave. And again, the miss or two here. And the expectation with Rattler was that he was the worst starting quarterback in the league. And again, he was all right. And finding his guys. The offensive line, solid. The run game has been pretty good to start the year. So there are some nice things here on the Saints. I don't think they're the worst team in the NFL, which is a giant step in the right direction considering where everybody assumed the Saints were going to be all year long. So again, a decent showing. They've lost both games here, and they may think that they could have won both of these, and I think they could have. But I think they're playing way better than expected, which is always nice. So an interesting week in the NFL. We are finally done. I know this took a while, and I know I cut it a bunch, but we are finally done, and that is it. Week 2 in the books. Week 3 coming next week.